Welcome to the Hollywood Raw YouTube page, guys. We're happy to have you here. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave us comments, do all the stuff.
What are you waiting for? Let's go. I got a drug addiction to feed.
Welcome to the Hollywood Raw podcast. My name is Adam Glyn. Over there is Dax Holt. Today, we have the man who is the historian of nude scenes in cinema, Mr. Skin. This guy, I remember when I used to work at the Stern Show, he used to come on from time to time and talk about popular nude scenes, actors, actresses that were going naked in films. His history of this is just incredible. Dax, do you remember, I don't know if you can remember, the first nude scene that was the most memorable for you in a movie?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. Shoot, what would be that scene? I'm trying to think, because I feel like I have nude scenes in my head, but I'm like, that can't be the first one that I
yeah, and that's some random porn star. That's not a real, that's not a real actress. That's not what I'm talking about.
Thinking way back in the day.
I have two. I have one was, and I say this just because it was so memorable for me, was Elizabeth Berkley in Showgirls, because this is right off Saved by the Bell. And it was so crazy that she was going right from a TV show to Showgirls, which some people still debate if that was a, good or bad.
I don't know if that was a great career move, but it became a cult classic for her, for sure. Like, people love that movie because it's so campy and ridiculous that, it has that following.
Yeah, actually, she'd be a great interview if she opened up to if she really thinks that hurt her career going nude. Because at that time, it was shocking for a person to go from television for children to go for a movie that was really catered to adults and might even have that the rated X-17, like remember that rating, NC-17 rating. There was that, which you don't see anymore. There's never an NC rating for movies. Who looks at ratings for movies anymore? Like what it's catered towards. But
I mean, who listens to reviews either? In my opinion, like you always see all these big, like, the Siskel and Ebert type people, they rated it this. I'm like, I don't care what they think. As long as I'm entertained, that's what I care about. Because you'll see these big, like, Marvel movies get terrible ratings. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was entertained for 2 hours at the movie theater. Like, that's all I want. I don't care what some stiff person, has to say.
Yeah, the only rating I look for in a movie is, like, if I look at a movie, I always curious check Rotten Tomatoes, where they have a critic score and that's the only rating. I'm not going to go through the local newspaper.
Yeah.
But I would say that the Showgirls Elizabeth Berkley was the most memorable nude scene for me. Then also movie that is so random and so stupid, but the movie as a kid growing up, it just showed a ton of nudity, was a movie called Meatballs 4, which the movie was terrible. However, the movie they knew what they're doing. They're going to cater to teenage boys and just so much random nudity that their parents didn't know that there's nudity in the film, and kids just kept watching that movie. So I think they knew what they were doing.
I think maybe mine was like Titanic. Like that scene with Kate Winslet was so famous and so, and I think I may have been there with my mom. And so there was a level of awkwardness as well, where you're like sitting next to your parent and then there's like nudity on it and you're like, what do I do? Where do I look? Am I supposed to look at the screen? Am I supposed to look away?
But you know what's amazing about that nude scene? It didn't, and especially at that time, it didn't take over the film.
No. And it was done very tastefully.
Yeah. I think with that nude scene, it was never like, oh my God, Kate Winslet's naked. Here's the biggest film in the world. And that nude scene didn't take over from the story in the film itself.
Yeah. Agreed.
Is it weird? Can I be honest with you? I never saw Titanic.
Like to this day, you've never seen it?
I've never seen the movie. I've seen parts of it because I know the movie. Like, we all know what's going to happen. I just never had interest in seeing it, really.
How have you? I probably watched the freaking movie 30 times. Like, whenever it's on TV, I'll be flipping the channels and it's on. I'm like, oh, it's Titanic. Gotta watch it. It's so
I've seen parts of it, the majority of it, just through watching parts of it. I just never felt the need to do it. And
So
the only,
weird.
but I watched
It's such a
that
good
scene
movie.
obviously a bunch because it's Kate Winslet naked, and at the
But
time I was
it's such a good movie. How have you never watched that full thing? You're weird. All right. Anyway, so we got Mr. Skin coming on. He also has a website called Mr. Man, which is the same thing. It chronicles all of the naked male nude scenes in cinematic history, and so he's been able to capitalize on a lot of this. I'm curious to know how the big studios aren't shutting him down. To me, I find that really interesting. Of how do you have all these screen grabs of clearly content that you don't own? How is it still up on your website? How are they not telling you to remove it? So there's got to be some politics somehow behind the scenes that allows him to have this very successful website for so many years, and none of the studios are saying, get this crap down. I don't know. I want to ask him that question for sure.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions regarding what he does, but again, his knowledge of nudity in films is it's a random skill. It's random work. Somehow it pays the bills.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Get to
Before
a
we get
review
to
real
him,
fast.
let's do a review. Dax, do you have a review ready for us?
I got a review. All right. Oh, this is a 4-star review. I don't even know if I should be wasting my time reading this. No, it says, this is from Billie Eilish fan dudes. Like hanging with your guy friends. I enjoy the casual banter. It's also fun to hear their insider perspective, and I feel like I'm hanging with my guy friends when I listen. Only complaint is the audio is not always perfect, but maybe it will get better and able to correct that. I must listen pod though. Oh, so that's why we got 4 stars, because of our audio levels. We will work on it, Billie Eilish fan dudes. Thank you. We appreciate you letting us know where we can improve. All right.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Dax, tell us about our guest today.
Our guest today has one of the most legendary websites out there. It has been around for decades, MrSkin.com. It also has MrMan.com. We got Mr. Skin himself. Welcome to Hollywood Raw.
Mr. Skin, it's an honor to have you. You have an interesting website. It's been around for a long, long time. I remember when I used to work at the Howard Stern show, having you on from time to time. It was just when you came on, Howard loved talking to you. Your history, your memory of the film industry is incredible. How would you explain? We've already explained what Mr. Skin is, but how would you explain what Mr. Skin is? And then how did you develop it?
Mr. Skin is a database of, I guess you'd call it a database. Think of that like IMDb, but it's for celebrity female nudity. Mr. Skin is a website where you could go, and I've been doing it. I launched it on August 10th of 1999, believe it or not. And it's a database you could go to find out if any actress in the history of movies or television has ever done a nude scene. And we review every movie and television show that has nudity or sexy content, and then rate it, review it. We have blogs with all the latest info, what's coming out, what's coming in. It's basically for people that are interested in film and television nudity. It is not a porn site, never has been. We do work with adult companies all the time because the traffic that comes to Mr. Skin obviously would also have an interest in adult, but we would send them that way if they so desire. But really at the heart of it, it's a database. So think of IMDb for nudity in movies.
That's crazy that it's been around for that long. Like
longer than YouTube, longer than Facebook, longer than Twitter.
It's wild.
And,
but you also have a male version of the site too.
Yes.
Like this is not just for female nudity and movies.
Right.
You also have a male site, correct?
Yeah, what happened in 2014. So the success of Mr. Skin is largely due to my radio exposure. I mean, I've been a guest on Howard Stern, over 20 times through the years. And even when I'm not on the show, they'll talk about my website a lot. And I've been on, you name, I don't know where you guys grew up, but I'm sure I was on regularly in your town, because there used to be all these like morning zoos and rock stations that had like a bunch of guys. It was just a different time. It's not that way anymore. But I was on in every city all the time. I was the guy that would come on and talk about this stuff, and it was great free advertising for the website. So Mr. Skin took off. We killed it throughout throughout the 2000s and stuff. And then in like 2013 or so, some of my content team were like, listen, we go through all these all these television shows like Game of Thrones, and there's all this guy nudity. We should do a male nudity website. And I have nothing against it, but I was like, well, I don't want to like have to know all the male nude scene. I'm just not interested in it. I don't want to be the face of that because it's just too much. I have too much to remember with female celebrity nudity, but they talked me into it and they were like, listen, we're already going through the movies anyway. Let's do it. And I was a little naive because I was like, we'll probably be like 50% women and 50% gay men that'll want to see this because, women really want to see naked men. They do want to see naked men, but as Kevin Blatt mentioned to you guys, they don't want to pay for seeing naked men. It's just women are different. And I was thinking like, oh my God, it'll be 50-50 gay men and women. It probably is more like 99% gay men, give or take 1 or 2%.
Let's get right into it.
Yeah, no problem.
So Marilyn Monroe, as far as I know, and again, you're a film historian, was the first one who did a nude scene as far as in a normal domestic type film. Is that true or accurate? Or is that the one who really did she break the barrier for doing nude scenes in film?
No, what you're maybe referring to is posing for Playboy in the 50s. And that was a big part of, a celebrity. It didn't ruin her career. In fact, it enhanced her career. Before she was famous, she posed on that red velvet, it was a photograph, a pinup, and that helped her career. Now, in movies, she did a movie in 1962 called Something's Gotta Give, where she did film a nude scene, but the movie was never finished due to her, she had a lot of issues and she wasn't showing up to the set. I think what you guys would be more interested in, or what fits more what you're talking about, was Jane Mansfield did a movie in 1963 called Promises, Promises. And
so was that the first one that really showed a nude scene in a film?
In a mainstream Hollywood film in America. Now, keep in mind, in the 50s, you had Sophia Loren and Brigitte Bardot in the French art films that did air in the United States. Like if you went to an art theater in the 50s, you could see that stuff. But in an American mainstream film, after 1932, well, I should mention in the 20s, there were movies. Wings in 1927 won Best Movie, first Oscar, and it had a nude scene in it. It was a silent movie. Clara Bow, the It Girl. But then 1932, remember, that's when the Hays Commission and when there was just no nudity anymore in American film, all the way to 1963. Because you guys know, if you watch a film in the 40s or 50s, there's no nudity in American film. But then in 1963, Jane Mansfield nude, and then it took off after that.
So I have to know the behind the scenes of, like, I got to imagine all the studios know about your websites, and how do they treat you? Do they come after you to pull down some of this content? I'm just curious how it remains up.
Or do they say, like, hey, this is good promotion for our films?
Because people will come watch it.
Yes. Well, yeah, they don't. They won't make it a press release about that. But yes, I have hundreds and hundreds through the years, studios, PR firms that have sent us content so we could review the movie. Keep in mind, we never say it's bad. We always say, oh, you got to check it out. Such and such actress is nude in this movie, and it's awesome. We don't when Kathy Bates was nude in About Schmidt, we're like, hey, this is awesome. Kathy Bates did a nude scene. She's super famous. Like, I remember my head writer at the time, we talked about this, and he said, we've always had a positive spin. Like, there are no bad nude scenes. As long as an actress willingly appeared in the movie and she was over 18 and it was, she consented to the nude scene, we're excited about it all the time, 100%. And we want to share that with people. But like, even with like Kathy Bates, it would be really easy to say, oh, that's disgusting. But I remember him telling me, he goes, somewhere out there's some guy that is so excited to see Kathy Bates in a nude scene. Let's not rain on his parade, right? And we've always kept that kind of vibe with our website. And another thing is we never would put like if a paparazzi took a picture of a celebrity, she was sunbathing nude and didn't want, that she wasn't asking for this. Like, we don't put that kind of stuff at Mr. Skin. It's just from movies and television where actresses willingly appear.
Now, do you ever get hit up by any actors or actresses that say, hey, that was content that was supposed to be viewed in context of a movie or a television show,
Sometimes,
and so doing a screen grab takes it out of the context?
Sometimes, but I will tell you this. The majority of those kind of calls or emails that we get are from maybe actresses that maybe did something in the 80s or 90s when they were young, and now they're a religious figure, or they're a teacher, or they're in business, and they'll hit us up and say, geez, I was young and stupid. I shouldn't have done that movie. And I got to tell you, I'm always take stuff like that down. I never want anyone to have their career hurt by it. So it doesn't happen a ton. Like a huge celebrity, their stuff is pretty much all over, but it's more those like obscure movies that when you have a database that's chronicling every single nude scene, we're going to come across things that maybe an actress only was an actress for like 2 years and is now in a completely different field,
Okay, on the other end of it, we know Hollywood. We know that press and publicity is what fuels careers. Do you ever get the calls that say, hey, just a tip, so-and-so, aka me, was naked in a movie back in 1980. You should probably get that on your website. And
all the time.
It's gonna help boost,
time,
someone's career or name.
It's funny. It didn't happen so much in my first 10 or 15 years. It happens more. Excuse me. It doesn't happen as much anymore because we're just so good at, like, I have like a big content team. We literally, there's so many different places to check if we missed anything. Whereas in the early days, my team wasn't as big, as good, and we might miss a few things. But if an actress or even just a user tipped us off, hey, I saw a movie in the 60s that such and such was naked, and we go back and look into it. And if that was true, we'll put it in the website. So as much as I know, I'm not saying I know every single thing, but we want to be comprehensive, and we want to chronicle every nude scene in the history of movies and television.
So would you say publicists in the last couple of years, because it's become such a campaign, are reaching out to you saying, hey, heads up, this actor, this actress is naked in the film. You should really kind of put some gas on it because it gives attention to this celebrity, gives attention to the film. That happens often, you're saying, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of times, because people ask me, like, is doing a nude scene bad for an actress's career? And I mean, I guess you could like maybe use Elizabeth Berkley in Showgirls as an example of bad, but I don't even think it really was. She's fine. I look at like, Margot Robbie in Wolf of Wall Street. Like, nobody knew who Margot Robbie was. And then she was in Wolf of Wall Street, did that amazing full frontal nude scene. And now she's like the biggest star in the world. She doesn't do as much nudity as anything close to that level of nudity since. But look at her career. And I think it just, Jennifer Lawrence just did a movie called No Hard Feelings. I don't know if you guys know about it, but
yeah,
I think it has a chance to be the #1 nude scene of 2023. And she's like an A-list actress. It was full frontal. It was hilarious. So
I was shocked.
Mr. Skin, actually,
Adam, did you see that movie?
I didn't see it, but I didn't really hear much that she went naked in the film because, again, there's been a lot going on since that movie came out. I do want to see
this nude scene. I have to tell you, this nude scene was ridiculous. It was so crazy. She was fighting, rolling. I mean, it was not an average nude scene. Like it's not like a sex scene. It's like she's going crazy and running around and fighting and all this kind of stuff. And I just thought there's no way that this could be Jennifer Lawrence because it's so over the top, so ridiculous. I had to go Google to see if she actually did this scene or this was some kind of stunt double, because it seems so out of character for such a huge Oscar-winning actress to do this nude scene. But found out, 100% her. She was into it. She thought it was hilarious. Like the whole thing. It was wild.
Yeah, she had a
So,
really
Mr.
good
Skin,
attitude about it.
Yeah, do celebrities get paid more for going nude in a movie?
It depends. I mean, a famous example is Swordfish with Halle Berry, where she did that quick topless scene when she was sunbathing, and the big rumor was at the time when she got an extra $500,000 to be topless in it because, like, I don't know how much you guys remember that movie from the early 2000s, but it's like most people don't remember anything about the movie Swordfish except that Halle Berry was topless in it. So it was great publicity for the movie. But in some instances, yes, it just depends.
Now, who is your top searched female name on your website, and who's the top searched male name on your website when people go in?
Male, I might have a little trouble right now because I haven't looked. But right now, like Jennifer Lawrence, Jenna Ortega, Sydney Sweeney, Margot Robbie, Emma Stone, Selma Hayek, those are like top. They usually are in our top 10, but right now they're super hot. Emma Stone has a movie called Poor Things that debuted at the Venice Film Festival, and I think people are going to be pretty blown away when this actually comes out in theaters. There is so much sex and nudity in it, and she did a brief nude scene in her career, but this is like unbelievable amount of nudity. So a lot of people are interested in that. So I think for female or male, if you just said who are the most searched actresses at Google right now, it's going to kind of sort of line up at Mr. Skin. Like the same amount of people want to know if those actresses have ever been nude.
Yeah, well, I'd say, male wise, I have to think Mr. Skin, you know more than anyone, there's a lot more females that go nude than men. And then when you go on the male side, like men will show a butt. Is there a thing about showing penises that's kind of tough for films that they're just kind of sort of against it? Because the only time I could think of offhand that a big star kind of went nude was Kevin Bacon in Wild Things.
No, Ben Affleck did. Remember?
Yeah.
Ben Affleck did.
But that was like brief. That was so quick you could blink and miss it. And I always feel like when they show nudity, for example, the Ben Affleck or the Kevin Bacon, it's always out of context. Like it's not necessary for the scene.
I can't stress enough though, with all the different what's really changed over the last 10 years is all the different platforms and the competition for eyeballs. So male nudity in the last 10 years has really taken off. And it's not just butts, like guys will show package, like maybe not super, super famous guys, but it isn't rare anymore for male full frontal nudity. In fact, you may think there's less, but we know that there's almost just as much male nudity as there is female nudity. It's just you guys aren't at the water cooler talking to your buddies about the male nudity, and you'll remember the female nudity. So there is no shortage of male nudity for MrMan.com. We're not like hurting for content, and I think that's a big change over the last 10 years. To me, it has a lot to do with there's just so much competition now through all the different platforms and all the different places there are to find nudity. And I know it really peaked in 2017 because there's no question there's less nudity today than there was in 2017 and 18. We've tracked it in both male and female, but there's so much more nudity now, celebrity nudity, than there was from 2000 to 2010 today, because of all the many different places actors or actresses could do nude scenes.
Do you think that going nude, like we kind of discussed that it seems like going nude helps a lot of careers, at least for women. do you think it also helps careers for men?
Yeah, I don't think a sexy nude scene, if you look good and you're a good looking person, and I don't know how people are going to get turned off by you because you did a nude scene. I mean, it could happen, but I think normally it makes you more interested in it or more excited about them, or more a fan of theirs if they do a nude scene. I truly believe that. I don't see people saying, "Oh, Margot Robbie was full frontal in Wolf of Wall Street. I can't stand her." I mean, it's just like it's just not. It just doesn't happen. The same with male nudity.
Well, has there been, I remember Meg Ryan doing an interview where she said she went nude in a film and that really
In the
hurt
cut.
her career. Yeah, in the cut. Meg Ryan did a nude scene and she said that really was, it hurt her career. Do you think being nude in a film can actually hurt your career after hearing what Meg Ryan did? And I say that.
That's what I'm just saying. Like, listen, she would know better than I. If she indeed believes that hurt her career, maybe it did. I don't know. But I mean, we all still know who Meg Ryan is. I don't know. I don't know what she's referring to. Maybe she had a great chance at a role in a Disney movie or something that because she did the nude scene, it hurt her. But I don't know the answer to that. I really don't.
Going back to like when people go nude for no reason. I mean, Olivia Munn and Magic Mike too. It was like a quick scene, like where she's like getting out of the bed and she's topless. It's like, really, you're gonna go naked for Magic Mike? And tell me the story about Angelina Jolie, because to me she is pretty incredible. She went nude at 17 in a film, and it was how she did that. She got emancipated at 17, which made her an adult, and she was able to do that. Because do you know the details of that? As for some people who might not be aware of that.
I don't know a ton about that. I mean, to me, the movie that put her on the map was Gia. Like, I mean, she had done some nude scenes in the 90s, Foxfire, Hackers, that were like, she was kind of unknown. People didn't really know her too well. But then when she did that Gia movie on HBO about the Gia Kranji, the supermodel, that really put her on the map, and she took off from there. And I still love that movie, and I think it's one of the great nude scenes of all time, her walking down the hallway nude. But I don't know too much about the whole emancipation thing and all that. She has a interesting, was it John Voight's her father? It's kind of interesting. I don't think they're close anymore, but maybe I'm wrong.
They kind of go on and off over the years. How do you deal with it when they're like, we know that a lot of celebrities do use body doubles to shoot butts or whatever. How do you fact check to make sure that the person isn't having a body double? And so we're not looking at someone else's parts and thinking it's the celebrity.
Well, body doubles are not that hard to figure out when you have a trained eye. I mean, in the early days of my website, a big thing I'd always tell people is if you see the face, they'll show an actress's face, then they'll cut away and then show a body part with no face. That's a big red flag that it was a body double. To me, 99% of the time I could tell if it's a body double. What got really tricky was in I think it was in like 2011 when the movie The Change Up came out. I don't know if you remember it. It had Jason Bateman, Leslie Mann, and it was the first really good CGI nude scene, because there's a scene where it's a little over 45 minutes into the movie where Leslie Mann walks into the bedroom. Jason Bateman's in bed, and it is like she looks like she's 24 years old. Incredible nude scene, gorgeous, but it was CGI nudity, and that's started to get really tricky. And I mean, remember Game of Thrones, the Walk of Shame, Lena Headey where Lena Headey had to walk through her kingdom in front of all the peasants completely nude. Well, what they did is they had a 24-year-old model named Rebecca Van Cleve actually walk nude through the crowd, and then through CGI attach Lena Headey's head to the thing, and it's very difficult to tell. So CGI is what's tricky. Body double, not so much. Now another one is merkins. It's like, how do you tell if it's a merkin or real? You know what a merkin is? Do you guys know?
Isn't that like a wig for your privates?
Yeah, it's a pubic wig, and there's so many like shows that harken back to like medieval times or the 20s or whatever, where fact of the matter is women didn't shave, and like, so if you do a full nude scene you can't have hardwood floors, right? So the merkin business has been very big, and I remember Olivia Wilde in Vinyl, that HBO show, where she went full frontal, but she joked about how she was wearing a merkin and she called it like a furkini. And so it's like, that's full frontal, but is it full frontal if you're wearing a wig? So these are all the big issues I have to deal with in my life, right?
So what is the most famous nude scene, like the top 3 most famous nude scenes? And then I guess the question is, what makes them famous?
Well, my favorite is Phoebe Cates in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's my personal
Classic
favorite.
shot.
I don't know. I don't want to say that's the most famous. I'd say Sharon Stone's leg cross in Basic Instinct is more famous because it's been parodied. If you mention Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct, you all remember that. If you ever rented the movie in the 90s at a Blockbuster, you'd get to that scene and it'd be all squiggly because everyone paused at that spot. So to me, that is one of the most famous. And another one is just Kate Winslet in Titanic, because how many people saw the movie Titanic, right? So that's a super famous nude scene. It depends on the quality of the nudity and how many people saw the movie. But those are all factors that influence the popularity of a nude scene.
I would say for me, the most wild scene was Halle Berry in Monster, because it was like long.
Monsters Ball, yeah.
Yeah, Monsters Ball, because Halle Berry, first of all, she's naked. It's a long scene. She's with Billy Bob Thornton, and still every time I think of and I look at Billy Bob Thornton, I think of Angelina Jolie. And it was actually, the movie itself was like a great movie. It was an interesting movie.
She won an Oscar.
Yeah, she won an Oscar.
She won the Oscar. Which was really cool, because you got to remember, there was this thing in Hollywood in the 80s and 90s that, like, if you were nude in a movie, it kind of cheapened your, it was kind of like, I don't want to say it didn't mean you were popular. It just meant that, like, maybe people voting on the movie might think, oh, well, we can't take this role as serious because you did nudity. And for her to do, almost, it was like a 3-minute sex scene with Billy Bob Thornton, and it's pretty graphic. For her to win an Oscar and do that nude scene was pretty amazing. And fast forward to this Emma Stone movie, Poor Things, that'll be coming out. I mean, that's getting Oscar buzz, and it's going to be way more sex and nudity than Monsters Ball. So I think that's cool, because I'd hate for movies to get penalized for Oscar nominations.
Who's the biggest celebrity? Who's the celebrity that's the biggest celebrity that's done the most nude scenes? Is there one big name celebrity that just continues to do it?
Well, there's like Susan Sarandon is an actress that's been, nude in over, 16 movies. That's a lot. I think of Helen Mirren's a great case study, because she was nude in 1969 in a movie called Age of Consent. She was nude in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s. So she has done a nude scene in 6 decades. That's pretty impressive. You're not going to find many actresses that have done 6 decades of nudity. So yeah, there's plenty of, and especially foreign actresses from Europe. Monica Bellucci's done in mid-20s for nudity. They're not as maybe uptight about nude scenes as maybe American actresses are. So there are plenty of famous actresses that you guys would know that have done tons of nude scenes.
Dax, I wonder if to be considered an elite actress, if you want to be considered an actress that takes her craft very seriously, that it's important to do one nude scene in one of your films.
Why? Like, why would that even matter?
Because you look at the list of people who've done it, and this is what I just look by, like, you look at some of the celebrities that have done it, and the people who have done it are so dedicated to the craft that they'll do anything for the scene. They'll do anything to make the role. So, going nude is a big thing, and it's a big risk. And if you're willing to risk and show yourself in that capacity, will the audience say this person's a great actress because they're so dedicated to the role?
Yeah, but how many writers are out there just like, I'm going to write this in so we can see who we can see naked?
But you wonder if it's sometimes where people say, and I think it was Marilyn Monroe when she did her nude scene, or her, that didn't make the film. She said, you know what, I'm going to go top. I think actually it was Emma Stone as well. She went nude in film as they were shooting and said, to make this part more believable, I'm going to go topless. And I think it's one of those things where it's not written in. However, maybe it's a conversation later down the road with the director and saying, hey, to make this scene a little bit more believable, how about you, for example, walk out of the bed naked? And if you're willing to do something like that, directors might want to work with you more, writers may want to work with you more, and the audience and the industry might say this person is so dedicated that they will do what they need to do for a role. Because it is show business. It's a business at the end of the day. They need to sell a film.
Well, what do you think about like the stars of the 50 Shades of Grey movie? Like, obviously that was a really big deal when that came out. Everyone was talking about it. I don't think that one necessarily enhanced their careers. Like, what's Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson doing these days? Like, I thought that if that movie was as big as it was, and you get to see them naked, like, it's gonna rocket launch their careers. I don't think that it did that for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, those books were super popular in the 2000s, and I want you guys to know that those movies made a shitload of money, believe it or not. Like, I call it was like mommy porn, it was very, it was just sexy. It was done in a way. So many women read the books, and then because they read the books, they wanted to see the movies. Did it make Dakota Johnson a household name? But did those movies make unbelievable amounts of money? Yes, the first two, especially. The third one, not so much. But those movies made so much money, and I don't think their budgets were that big either.
Mm-hmm. No, I just thought it was an interesting case study on that one, where, I mean, the whole thing was them being naked, and you're seeing their bodies, you're seeing this. It was softcore porn, but I just don't think that it rocket launched them by any means. Yes, they became way more famous than they were before the movies, but you're not seeing all the roles being thrown into their lap because they're willing to do nude scenes.
Yeah, an interesting topic too, and you guys being a little younger than me might be able to comment about this even better. But I've always said that it's different now. Like, okay, if you're a 23-year-old, your whole life, you've been able to access nudity so easily, right? Like, you had the internet, you had cable television, there was all this, it was so easy to access. And I think it's part of the reason why nude scenes aren't as big a deal to younger people as they are maybe to older people. And I think it's because they just, and I think another thing to consider is with social media, actresses can post pictures of themselves, partially nude, or they kind of control their their bodies.
It's not so taboo as it used to be. Like, people are so much more free to show off their bodies, and you see a lot more of it where you didn't see it back in the day. And I think that's one of the big changes, like the evolution in time.
When Fast Times at Ridgemont High came out, I maybe saw a porn movie or two through, like, you know, those crappy 8mm things with a sheet up against the wall that was like, you know. So, like, to see Phoebe Cates nude was such a big deal. Whereas I always wonder, like, if I was 23 years old today or 24 years old, like, if someone showed their breasts in a movie, yeah, it's cool, but it's not as cool as it was when I was 23 years old. Does that make sense? You know, it's just, that's why I think it's not as exciting for people. And there's so many, like, we didn't have like blockbusters all the time. Now a lot of those PG-13 blockbuster movies are out there, and they never have nudity, and those are the ones that are guaranteed to make a ton of money. So there's less and less of the type of movies. In other words, nudity is not going to get people into the seats or rent the movie. Yeah, they want to see it, but it's not like as exciting. If when Sharon Stone did the leg cross, we all had to go to the theater to see it, right? We couldn't. How else would we have seen it? We had to pay money to go to the theater and see it. Now you don't have to.
You know what's interesting is I respect women a lot, and I say that because we've seen actresses over the years in all different shapes and forms go nude for parts. But all the male actors that have gone naked in a film, Jason Segel, Ewan McGregor, Daniel Radcliffe, Kevin Bacon, they're all guys with huge dongs. They want to show it off. These are guys that are like, you know what, I'm going to show. We don't have any male actors with small penises. These guys are cool about it because they know what they're packing. Women, they don't care if they're small, big, whatever it is. They'll do it. Men need to step up and show more full frontal. Dax, let's start a movement.
I mean, yeah, if you wanna be the advocate for that, go right ahead. But I could tell you that it's happening. You're just not maybe seeing a lot of these television shows with male nudity and pretty graphic stuff, and it's just not as like taboo anymore for a guy to just be standing there with his package out.
Well, Mr. Skin, let me ask you this: who's the male actor, big name, that has had the largest penis?
Oh God, I know Liam Neeson is a member of the hung jury. William Dafoe is supposed to be, and this is where I always feel bad when I do interviews. Is like, I hate not having specific answers, and when it comes to male nudity, I'm almost like you guys in that I know about as much as you guys do because I just don't study that stuff, or I don't. And I'm not saying because I'm homophobic or anything, I could care less. I'm just not like, that's not my wheelhouse. So I'm not, my answers are kind of, I think, and I hate that. When you ask me a question about a female nude scene, I feel like the world's leading expert. On the other stuff, I'm more of a civilian, if you know what I mean.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And if you guys want to check out his website, mrskin.com, or the other one is mrman.com. Thank you for taking some time chatting with us for a little bit, giving us some insight on these nude scenes and having this, as you say, the IMDb of nude scenes out there.
You guys do a great job interviewing, and I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, buddy.
You got it, guys. Take care.
Thank you. I'm telling you, I think right after this episode, everyone's going to be on their computer looking up scenes from movies to see these celebrities naked.
Yeah, probably not, though. Our audience is going to be like, thanks for the info. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you, perverts. I'm going to move on to listening to Juicy Scoop. It's funny because it makes me think of the times. He said something that really resonated with me where, younger audiences right now aren't shocked by nude scenes. But yet again, there's not too many young movie stars. We see now actors, actresses go nude in TV shows because the industry has kind of switched. We see Sydney Sweeney went a lot. She went naked a lot during her show Euphoria. So it's just a different type of spin because it's not like, hey, did you go to the movies this weekend and see Halle Berry naked? It's like, hey, did you watch that show last night on HBO Max? It was Sydney Sweeney. Yeah, she was naked. All right, I'll watch it when I get home. It's not. Yeah. You don't have to go to the theaters to see it, so it's so easy to access. But I'll tell you what, Sydney Sweeney went naked in Euphoria, and she became the biggest star of the show. And I think it was because of that she went naked. People talked about her. People were. She had a great body. People were engaged and interested in her.
Yeah, with some scenes, I'm telling you, it can really make a career, but I don't think it's necessarily that way for everyone. Some people do it and just kind of comes and goes.
Now, I don't know. Yeah. You weren't a horny teenager like the rest of them, so you were too busy. I don't know, fixing bikes or something like that, or just causing forest fires. I don't know what you were doing, but for the rest of us perverts, it was a huge deal. I mean, I remember going to the video store and renting the same movie 7 times in a row for that one nude scene. Guys, thank you for listening, for watching YouTube. Thank you. Check out MrSkin.com. We have a private Facebook group called Off the Record, which it's a really fun community. I suggest you guys check it out, answer a few questions, and we'll allow you in. Follow us at Hollywood Raw Pod on Instagram. Follow me at Adam Glyn. Follow Dax Holt at Dax Holt, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
What's up, guys? If you like that video, there's plenty more where that came from.
Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, so we can just feed you all the goodness daily.
Hurry up. Come on, let's go.